can't eat.
Welcome to Leadership Laps, where we explore these journeys with the incredible leaders of Aurora Public Schools. In each episode, we'll hear from those who are helping guide our district toward Destination APS, sharing their stories, their challenges, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Today, I'm so excited to have Lori Petersen, principal of Arkansas Elementary, who exemplifies how leadership is about gratitude, resilience, and celebrating every step of the journey. Sometimes, quite literally, with a breakdance. Lori, before we dive into your leadership marathon, tell us a little bit about you and your journey to becoming principal at the ARC.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for that lovely introduction. I will say that my journey to getting to Arkansas was based on pretty much who you know. I was a high school English teacher, and I moved from Colorado Springs to Aurora. Didn't know much about the area. And I had an assistant principal at the school I was at in the Springs that had a friend on her college ski team who was the athletic director at Hinckley. And when I moved and I found my house, she's like, hey, I think you're about 5 miles from Hinckley. And I was like, okay. So I looked at the job for Hinckley and interviewed there as an AP. And then I was there for 4 years, and the principal at the time was doing like some restructuring, and one of the APs was going to go do something at the district level. And so he ended up going to the district level and taking over Arkansas. And then he moved to New York. And the current superintendent, when this principal, Kevin Shrum, went to say, hey, I'm moving to New York, the superintendent asked him, do you have anybody in mind for your job? And he said, Lori Petersen. And I was like, you said what? I have never done elementary kids. I am 5'10". I am loud. All of my good jokes will be wasted at the elementary level. I love high school. And that was it. I interviewed and instantly fell in love with Arkansas. Wow. So that we call the ARC.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I'm glad that you knew them and they brought you here and that you're still here.
Yes.
We're really glad to have your leadership in Aurora. Tell us about your role as principal of Arkansas Elementary. What does a typical day look like for you?
Okay. I want to make it like really difficult so that people don't try to take my role from me, because it really is the best job on the planet. It starts off with curb duty. In the morning, we open up the car doors so that we can see the kids. It's a great way to get a gauge of how they're feeling for the day. If a parent has an issue, they usually let me know on the curb, like, hey, I'm going to be calling you later, or do you think we can talk about it? They just pull up. So we handle it that way. From there, we start the announcements with the kids. It's always on an upbeat, our purpose and our mission. Why are we here? What to expect for the day? We close it out with our acronym to be, Aurora student, respectful, own what you do, have a great attitude, and be role models. Then I go through the day in and out of classrooms. Lunch duty is my favorite. I want to give a shout out to my 5th grade lunch duty squad. I have the best kids in APS, and yes, I'm biased. So do that. Every day is different depending on what my building needs, what my people need. And then at the end of the day, we celebrate all the small successes and tell each other good job and look forward to the next day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I love that 5th grade is your squad. I taught 5th grade, and as a young batcher, I didn't always do a good planning for meal prep, and so I would eat lunch with the kids every day because it was an easy way to get my lunch every day. So it's one of my favorite memories too. Is a 5th grade lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every leader's journey has its training ground. So I remember my first role in education. I was an avid tutor at a high school during my first year of college. I knew I wanted to be a teacher then, but it made me realize that I preferred working with students that weren't the same age as me. So I went opposite of you. I went elementary. Wow. What was your first role in education?
My first role was, I'm going to say way back in the day, to the point that my mom was a special education teacher for 35 years. She was having a surgery and she walked in and said, hey, at this time I was just like fresh from moving back from Washington, D.C., back home. I told the front office that you would be my substitute.
Wow.
And I was in the kitchen like, a substitute teacher for you? Like, that's not even my major. I've never been a teacher, wanted to be a teacher.
Wow.
Yeah, you'll be fine for the next 2 weeks. So it was back in the day before even Kelly Services. I remember signing into the office, signing this little sheet. And I did that for 2 weeks. And that was my introduction. And I was hooked. And she says, I always knew you were a teacher. But just being in that atmosphere and the energy and the hope and the promise, I was like, I got to get me some of this on a regular basis. So I went back to get my alternative license, became a high school English teacher, and then started my leadership journey from there.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Relatedly, it sounds like you didn't start out thinking you would be a principal.
No.
Tell us a little bit about, or share a moment when you realized school leadership was your calling.
Oh, I know the moment, and unfortunately, it's not the most positive light, but I was a teacher at Sand Creek High School in the Springs and loving what I was doing. And I heard one of my students having a conversation, but it was a one-way like directive from the assistant principal. And I'm like, there's two sides to the story. And the kid wasn't giving the opportunity to tell his side of the story. And I just kept going up and down the hallway, like, oh, I got to do something like this. It's just a little injustice. Let me just insert myself, kind of give my opinion. Because I'm like, I think it could be resolved if you just listen to his side of the story. It would save you some work. And that AP turned to me and goes, I don't have time to listen to his side of the story. Do you have time? I was like, well, I do today. He knows, no, in general. If you think this is easy, then why don't you take it on? I said, well, I never said it was easy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying time and opportunity, maybe it could be resolved a little bit different.
Right.
And he's like, no, if you think it's going to be easy. So I went down to the English department and I was like, hey, so-and-so said this to me. I went back the next day. I'm like, what did you mean? Like, how can I help out? And so that AP gave me a clipboard, and I'm not kidding, a stack of referrals that were 4 months behind.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay, I guess maybe I could have been quiet. But I took my clipboard and I took my referrals and I organized them. And I, during my planning period, hit the hallway, pulling kids out. Hey, this referral. They're like, dang, that was back in the day. I don't care. You're still gonna, this is your consequence. You cool with that, son? I'm here. Keep it moving. I eventually upgraded myself from a clipboard and a stack of referrals to a rolly chair. And I put all that together and I became more efficient. In the 3 weeks, I'd cleared all of those referrals. I'd made relationships with kids. Some of those kids weren't repeat offenders because, I was like, this is the consequence. If you don't like the consequence, which means you can't play in that game, we got to make sure that you're on the right track. And I literally that was it for me. I was like, okay, I really like this leadership gig. I think you can do it in a different approach rather than always hard discipline.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you had that experience and that challenge and that you answered the call and that you're leading Arkansas today.
Me too.
We in our office often talk about the importance of mentors that we've had. I know you had a chance to listen to Mike's episode last week, and he talked quite a bit about folks who impacted his journey. Who helped to shape your leadership journey?
I already mentioned Kevin Schrum. He was very beneficial when I got here to APS because kind of knowing the APS way takes a little bit. So I appreciate his mentorship. I am so grateful for the opportunity to work with Laura Galito. I've worked with her before. She was a principal in California, and then she was my principal, just modeling the way, taking things little chunks at the time. Never take it personal. If I had nothing really to do with that was like rule number one. Just be an observer for a second. Don't take it personal because your job is to seek to understand. Most people want to be heard, so just hear them out and see if you can be a solution to the problem. So huge mentor for her. And then there are still people that I lean on now. I learn all the time from Lisa Gross at Rangeview. Yeah. She's amazing. I know that she's a lifeline. I can call her up. So I've had a small group, but impactful core that I feel tremendously successful because of them.
That's I love hearing that so much, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. You mentioned Lisa. Mike and I had a chance to stop by the boys' basketball game last night, and they ended the season, of course, undefeated. So hopefully we go far on the playoffs. But yeah,
Go Raiders.
go. That's the only time that you'll hear me say go Raiders. But yes, go Raiders. Um, I've had an opportunity to visit you and Arkansas a couple times so far in my short journey here at APS so far, and it is very apparent to me that the Arkansas community has such a strong identity. How have you fostered that sense of belonging that I mean I felt when I'm there and I can see students feel that, staff feel that. How have you fostered that?
Well, I thank you for that. I think it is intentional work. So we work at it daily. I ask people when you come through the door to bring joy. Everyone has a story. We know that something happened at your house and something went wrong, and everyone has a story. But when you go through the double doors, we're a community collective. And it starts with all of us or none of us. And if we can keep that mentality, like all of us are going to rise or none of us are going to rise, I think it makes it easy. I am just like blessed to be in that little pocket of that community where it's like a small town feel and people want to help out. Like today, we had the late start and we're opening up car doors, and there's like one mom with 5 sets of kids in there. Like, just okay, I was the person today. It's so refreshing that people, they want to thrive, they want other kids to thrive, and when that is your momentum and your daily cadence, it's just hard to like resist it. You just have to embrace the joy. It is definitely contagious and it keeps you going.
That's a gem.
Yes, it is. It really is.
Bring joy. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Your school's journey, especially through and after the pandemic, is a testament to resilience. Can you take us through the journey to your incredible comeback in 2024, back to a performance rating? We'll talk a little bit about the Green Party shortly, but yeah, what was that like?
I think where my team is competitive and we want to do well. So CMAS scores are like the ultimate scoreboard. And so when you give it your all and then you still lose that game, and for us, it was slipping from performance into priority improvement. We didn't wallow in it and pout too much. We're like, okay, those are the facts. How can we get better?
That's right.
And we realized that there are so many components to it if we could just make the commitment to like one. And so it became science was our commitment, and then we added writing to it. And then it's always been a focus of looking at our data and seeing that, we left behind some of our MLLs and our students on IEPs, and we can't have that happen anymore. So that became the community collective. We didn't try on 20 things at a time. We just had 3 things that we were going to do well so that we can build on it the following year. And then that's what we did. And then I don't think people were really shocked when we were back in performance. They were extremely grateful, and it validated all the hard work they've done to make sure that we were focused on the right things.
That's incredible. So I have to ask about the Green Party celebration. You were breakdancing in the gym in a green summer dress.
Yes.
What inspired that moment, and what does it say about your approach to both leadership and celebrating those big wins?
Well, I was inspired by the kids. Like, they were having a good time, so I didn't want to, what they say, FOMO? I have FOMO when it comes to missing out on joy. That's about it. So they're excited. I think it was when I realized that they realized, like, holy smokes, this is a big deal. That's the first time we'd celebrated like that. So thank you for that. Usually the principals get a banner and closed doors, and the kids don't ever get to party like that. So that was our Super Bowl, right? So I wanted to be in dancing with them so that we would remember that moment. And I think that is our routine, that we're always celebrating the little things because it encourages you to keep going, between performance banner and a school year, there's a lot of days that get covered. So I think it's important to keep that small things, celebrate the small wins all the time.
That's right. And for folks who are tuning in, Lori and the team made sure every student had their green shades on. all the staff were dressed in green. It was everywhere. The little green frogs.
Little green frogs. So, way
Yeah,
to go,
yeah.
Arkansas.
That's right. Congratulations, Arkansas. Um, One thing that I've noticed about your leadership is your consistent practice of gratitude, from writing thank you notes after lead and learn sessions to celebrating other schools' successes. The other day, you sent a shout out to Drew and the Kenton community for their progress on access testing. How has that approach around practicing gratitude shaped your leadership or your school culture?
Um, well, I would say I personally believe that there's not a well of gratitude. So if I dip some out and I give some to you or give some to Candace or anybody else, that it's going to run out. That's not how gratitude works. When I give it away, I get it back. And so I like that flow, that it is okay for me to compliment somebody who's shining without it, taking away from the success I've had. We all grow together, and it really goes back to that all of us or none of us.
That's right.
And I think all of us, like APS, this destination APS, there's room enough for all of us to shine. So it just seems silly for me to be not leading in that direction, right? I want my kids to see that you can be grateful. You can lose and still clap for the winner and be like, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Can I have 2 of those Skittles? I mean, you could
Right.
still
Right.
have that attitude.
Yes. This might be a hard question, but because I know that you just mentioned celebrating both the small victories, the big ones. With so many small and big victories, what's been your proudest moment as a principal of Arkansas so far?
Oh, okay. Small, big. I am very proud that my community raised $1,000. We did a fundraiser last year, and the way that money showed up, $1,000 in 3 days, and that kids were bringing money from their piggy banks and doing chores at home so that they could earn money to pass along to someone else. I'm extremely proud about that one. Because there were some sacrifices, and the kids were okay dropping their money and saying, so we don't get ice cream this weekend, but I wanted to use that money towards this good cause. That's a recent one, but yeah, that's still one.
Good.
Surfaced up.
Staying on that theme of celebrations, after a challenging event like the power outage, I got to visit Arkansas the next day, or the infamous internet outage of 2025, you still find ways to turn those into positive experiences for your students and staff and community. How do you maintain that positive perspective through challenges?
Well, I think just like the nature of this podcast, right? This is just one lap. Like this truly is the longest marathon. It's just one lap. I have to remind kids that there are going to be laps where you don't run your best.
Yeah.
There are going to be laps when you catch a cramp, but you need to keep moving forward, and I need you to be resilient. And so that's a life skill that you can have when you're disappointed that, you didn't have a snow day, but you still make the best of it at indoor recess. So that's the important part, is just letting us know that it's just one day, not day one. And let's keep that mindset and keep going.
That's incredible, and I think it's a good segue into the next part of the pod, the leadership playlist. And so my first question is, how do you maintain your energy through the ups and downs of any school year?
My staff will tell you they wish I'd probably find a different technique. I am a singer, and I have no business being a singer. I will make up a tune. I will remix it, and I think it's funny. I will sing the wrong lyrics to something. I just like that. Like, music fills my bucket is music. And so in times like that, that's my joy. So if I can just take a minute, play a song, keep going, it's really something small and silly, but it gets me through. It just, if I could have a soundtrack, Jesus playing behind me every single day, it would be awesome. That's really what motivates me through. And I took a step back a couple weeks ago and was noticed that other people who don't like to sing are now making up little tunes. I'm like, it just feels good, right? It gets you through that.
Great.
Like, it's not the best Wednesday, but I'm going to sing a little and just keep pushing through.
I love that because we need the right soundtrack. Leaders need inspiration to keep moving forward as well. For me, sometimes it's a podcast or an audible book or music. And so, speaking of you staying energized, you singing your own tunes, those breakdancing skills at the Green Party. What's playing in your actual leadership headphones lately? What are you listening to?
Okay, well,
music wise,
Yolanda Adams was in it today. Since it is February Black History Month, I had Sounds of Blackness. In Arkansas, I start off the morning every day with the tune, and I try to tie it into the day. So that was playing this morning. I had Defying Gravity yesterday. I tried not to sing along. There's a couple of notes I didn't hit. And then, like, if I am like in the podcast mindset, Mel Robbins is my new favorite. She's got a eclectic range of things, but I learned a lot from different leaders in the business side and the education world. And then for Christmas, I got a masterclass subscription. So that's all over. And right now I'm learning about the power of AI and how you should always have that tool by your side when you brainstorm.
That's funny.
Yeah. So that's literally what's playing in my ears.
Love it. I've been starting my mornings with some Kendrick Lamar lately, coming off of the Super Bowl, but there's something about that Grand National energy that gets me ready for my day. Pivoting a little bit to maybe a book, what are some that have influenced you or your approach to leadership, or what's something you recently read that you would recommend to an aspiring leader?
I say for aspiring leaders, I know it's a staple, but Dare to Lead, because it's so internal where you have to answer questions for yourself and how the things that you value and what direction you want to go. That's always a staple. One of them I think is great, and I apologize if I mess it up, but it's by Eric Jensen. It's Teaching with Poverty. I think that's a good and so that one's dog-eared and underlined because fight or flight. A kid is not going to listen to you if they are in that situation. So sometimes it's good to step back and be like, I'm going to be over here working when you're ready to talk, and knowing that it's going to take 45 minutes, but I'm not going to poke that tiger. So I think those are two good ones to ground your work in as a leader.
Thank you for those recommendations. I'm on a journey of trying to do 52 books this year, one a week. And so the last one that I read was The Mastery of Self by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. Highly recommend. It was really helpful for me as I just think through my own journey of wanting to become a better leader every day and doing taking small actions each day for that. Believe it or not, we're approaching our final lap in our conversation, which I lament already. I've enjoyed this so much so far. But let's sprint through some quick reflections.
Okay.
What does Destination APS mean to you and to the Arkansas community?
Oh, I think Destination APS is an environment where people thrive and that you have opportunities to find your unique magic. I like the direction where we're heading when it comes to, like, we have, I'm not going to call them magnet schools, but I want to say, like, we have Claire Brown. We have these opportunities for you to go and find something else that brings you joy, sparks your curiosity and ignites you to want to continue your education. So I really think we're all about that. Having just kids have multiple opportunities to learn, to me, is what Destination APS is. And the community feel. When we kick off the year with our community kickoff, it's always like the best vibe, and I think there are new programs that are coming through that feeling just isn't at the beginning of the year. It continues on throughout the school year. So that excites me, that we're getting back to being a community rather than the business model that we've been in the past years.
Thank you. What's one piece of advice you wish you'd received earlier in your leadership journey?
That not everyone is going to be in it for the same reasons you are. I spent most of my time trying to convince teachers and my fellow leaders that the work was important, and that's just wasted energy. That's their belief and their mindset that I'd just been like, okay, so I just wasted 55% of energy on that when I could have been invested in people who were doing the right work.
Thank you. And Lori, thank you for sharing your leadership journey with us today, or at least some of the laps from your journey, your commitment to gratitude, resilience, and celebrating both your own school successes, but also others' achievements within our school district shows how leadership can lift an entire community. Join us next time as we continue exploring the paths of those who are helping guide us toward Destination APS. Until then, keep running your race with purpose.